Here we have a great but confusing little lens from the folks over at TTArtisan. This is their 35mm f1.4 lens for the L-Mount. This $73 manual focus lens is small, compact, and it offers a 52.5mm field of view in APS-C mode. That's the equivalent of the full frame field of view. I'll talk about why this lens is confusing coming up in just a moment, and also why it's been fun testing it. All of my sample footage and photographs were shot using the original Pansonic S5 in manual focus. Welcome back to the channel, folks. My name's Shane. In today's video, we're checking out an almost nifty 50 lens from the folks over at TTArtisan. This is their dedicated APS-C lens, and if you want to shoot in full frame mode, you'll need to crop in post due to the vignetting. There's a lot to like about this little lens, starting with the price. Now, at the time of filming, this lens is priced at only $73. I've tested a number of TTArtisan lenses over the last 2 years or so, and their price to performance ratio is unmatched. The same can be said for this lens, which offers a somewhat vintage looking vibe while remaining sharp when you nail focus. Secondly, this lens is compact and lightweight, coming in at only 180 grams. Thanks to the small size and weight, it would make for a great little travel lens or video lens for folks who want to shoot in APS-C mode. Now, if you're thinking 180 grams seems like a lot for a small lens like this, I forgot to mention that it's all metal from the rear lens mount all the way through to the front cap. Thirdly, this lens is fast at f1.4. With the 1.5 times APS-C conversion, it works out to a depth of field around f2.1 full frame equivalent, which is more than enough for filmmaking purposes. I usually find myself stopping down to f2.8 with most fast manual focus lenses so I can actually nail focus, and I'm a big fan of the overall look and feel of this lens visually. Speaking of pulling focus, the manual focus ring feels smooth and fluid under the fingers. I did notice, if I have a quick listen to it up close, it is a little bit on the scratchy side, but it's definitely not something that would ruin your audio. And if you're coming from the LUMIX S series of primes or any other kit lens, for example, from Panasonic, the focus ring is actually towards the base of the lens instead of the front. This did take me a couple of days to get used to, but after I got used to it, it hasn't been an issue. This lens does extend slightly when focusing from minimum to infinity focus, but again, this lens is very compact even at full extension. The aperture ring is on the front of the lens, and it offers a soft click into each position as you turn it from f1.4 all the way to f16. This TTArtisan 35mm f1.4 APS-C lens features a 39mm filter thread on the front and a metallic lens hood cover that screws on and off. I didn't have any step-down rings this small, so all of the sample footage you've seen so far is shooting in aperture priority mode on the Pansonic S5. Wide open, this lens is more than capable of producing a nice background blur and subject separation. These examples on screen showcase how much isolation you can achieve with this APS-C lens. Stopping down to f8, you can achieve a nice Sunstar look, as you can see from this example. One of the reasons I consider this lens to have some vintage qualities comes down to the lens flaring. This lens is very susceptible to lens flaring, but again, it looks quite nice to my eye. You'll either like the lens flaring look or you won't. If you're coming from some of the more clinical looking lenses, this might not be what you're used to. If you're looking for a lens that adds its own character to a shoot, give this guy a look. Chromatic aberration is also very noticeable when wide open at f1.4, but as you stop down, it cleans up fast, which is fantastic. You can also see from this backlit example just how the lens flaring also reduces as I stop down. Even at f2, there's a great deal of improvement in both flaring and chromatic aberration as opposed to f1.4. There's also some obvious vignetting wide open at f1.4, even in APS-C mode, as you can see from this example. The corners are darker than the middle, but it's not a deal breaker. Alrighty, let's talk about why this lens confuses me. For $79, this is insane value. The build quality and optical performance are well above its price point. Shooting video in APS-C mode on the Pansonic S5 actually gives you some benefits, including improved rolling shutter performance. Rolling shutter is reduced to around about 10.5 milliseconds versus the 21 milliseconds you'd find in full frame mode. This is a clear reason why a lot of people still love shooting in APS-C for video, irrespective of what the YouTubers say. Where this lens confuses me most is when it comes to photography. My S5 doesn't allow you to crop into APS-C mode when taking photographs, which means I'm left doing a bunch of post-production to remove the vignetting. The only way to avoid this severe vignetting is to put the photographic aspect ratio into a 1:1 aspect, which is the square ratio. If you're happy doing this, it will save you a lot of time cropping in later. While this 1:1 mode is great fun to shoot with, I don't think it'll be ideal for everybody. There's also some signs of vignetting even when shooting in this mode in the corners, although it is more subtle. If you have an L-mount camera that offers an APS-C mode, this won't be a problem, but it begs the question as to why you would want to shoot APS-C over full frame for photography anyway. The only APS-C sensor L-mount camera I could find is the Leica CL. Either way, this lens is great value, and I can see it being a cost-effective way of getting solid results, especially for videographers. Again, for photographers, the crop might be a deal breaker. I know personally I wouldn't use it for photography on my S5 unless I was happy shooting in that 1:1 aspect ratio. A massive thanks to TTArtisan for sending this out for the review. I really appreciate it. If you want to check this out, I'll link it down in the description box below. Catch you soon.